Hi, everyone. The next two episodes are with a great friend of mine, Gerould Wilhelm. I met him in 1979, and I'd like you to get to know him as well as I've gotten to know him. He's done some wonderful work, and he's still doing wonderful work. He wrote the 5th edition of Flora of the Chicago region, listing every plant that grows in 18 counties that surround Chicago. And it lists all the plant associates that live with those plants, and also Laura, his friend, has put in insect relationships to almost every plant within the volume. So sit down and enjoy a visit with Jerry. Thank you. I'd like to introduce you to Gerould Wilhelm. And I met Jerry, I think it was in 1979. I don't know if he remembers that.
I do. He had long hair back then.
Yeah.
And very young.
Longer hair, and I was younger. Right. So I just wanted to share with you I wanted to share with you Jerry and the things he's done and the influence and changes he's helped me consider and rethink about the way plants live and the way plants live together socially. So, Jerry, can you share with us a little bit about your history of how'd you get started at the Arboretum?
Basically, I was in the Army, and I was fortunate not to have been sent to Vietnam. Have you heard this story?
No.
So probably you have.
Yeah, I have, but probably it's better.
But so anyway, when I was actually going through the Armed Forces Entrance and Examining Station there in Jacksonville, Florida, before I got my hair cut off, they asked me to fill out an experience sheet. And so I filled out an experience sheet, and I took it over to the E4, who was sitting there getting short. You know, you could tell he only had about 16 days left or whatever. He looked at my experience sheet and said, "What are you, some kind of idiot?" I said, "Yeah, what tipped you off?" He said, "Well, I don't even believe it." I said, "I don't either, man." And he said, "But you mean to tell me you went to Florida State University?" Because I had major equipment used, and I wrote down dump truck, bulldozer, a really cool centrifuge I had at Florida State, and electron microscope. He said, "You mean you got a degree in biology and never used a test tube?" And I said, wouldn't that be implicit?" He said, "Huh?" He said, "Did you use a test tube?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Write it down." So I went back and I wrote down, 25 milliliter test tube, 50 milliliter test tube, 75 milliliter test tube, 100 milliliter test tube, on and on, all the graduated cylinders I could think of, well slides, non-well slides, top of petri dish, bottom of petri dish, Pasteur's needle, you name it.
Wow.
I had pages and pages.
Filled out.
I didn't get smart. I just, I said, what are they going to do, kill me?
Yeah.
Go to Vietnam? Die anyway, so what could they do, right?
Yeah.
And so then I didn't think anything more about it. And then in my firing hole at the end of basic, the sergeant came up to me and he said, "Wilhelm, who do you know?" And I said, "I don't know that many people, Drill Sergeant." He said, "You know some damn buddy." Actually, he used the F word like a comma. We'll dispense with that. But just imagine every time there's a comma, he uses an F word.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "You know somebody." And I said, "Well, I know Johnson here." He said, "Johnson don't count. You know somebody. This is pretty good duty." And I looked at it and it said, "USAE Waterways Experiment Station, Vicksburg, Mississippi. Do not," down the lower right-hand corner, it said, "Do not carry weapon." I thought, all right, we're not too bad so far.
Yeah.
But
you listed test tubes and things you worked with.
Well, I didn't know. They didn't know. I thought because I'd had construction work, they were going to send me to the Corps of Engineers, teach me how to run a bulldozer, and then send me to Vietnam. Then I would get shut off a bulldozer. That's what my thinking was.
Possibility,
So,
right?
And so, because the Corps of Engineers, so this was in 1971, right around that time, and right after the National Environmental Policy Act had come in, been signed into law January 1st, 1970. So we did the first EIS, Environmental Impact Statement, headed up by Major Emge, on a 12-foot channel, a proposal to move the Illinois River from a 9-foot channel to a 12-foot channel and put duplicate locks at the 6 dams from Brandon Road Lock and Dam on down to LaGrange Lock and Dam. That's why I went into the little personnel office, but I didn't know that then. I just went to the personnel office, and there was a nice lady there, and this sergeant, Corporal Steinauer, I said, "Can you tell me where I can find Major Emge?" He said, "Oh, Gerould, we've been waiting for you. How are you?" And I said, "I'm not too bad, babe. How are you doing?" He said, "Oh, you speak very good English." And I said, "You're not too bad yourself, man." He said, oh, we thought with a name like Gerould Wilhelm, you were right off the boat. And I said, no, man, I'm from Florida. And I said, so where do I find Major Emge? I supposed to report for Major Emge. So he said, well, it's over in the concrete lab. This is brand new. The Corps of Engineers have never had anything to do with environmental anything before.
Yeah. It was kind of the beginning.
Kind of the beginning.
71 is the
so I went in, but
movement.
I always had a hard time remembering to salute lieutenants and captains early on in training. And so I said, don't forget on the wrong foot, Jerry. Remember to salute this guy when you go in. And he said, so I went in. I said, I'm sure my lips were moving walking over there. I said, remember to salute, remember to salute. So I went in and I stood just in front of his desk and looked 2 feet above his eyes, above his head, and I saluted smartly and said, sir, Private Wilhelm reports. He said, where have you been, Wilhelm? I said, well, sir, I just over personnel. No, Wilhelm, I'm going to ask you again. Where have you been? I said, well, do you mean like 15 minutes ago? Or, he said, we expected you here 2 weeks ago. Where have you been? And I said, well, sir, I had 2-week leave in Pensacola. He said, we're going to look into that, Wilhelm. See the map on the wall? Yes, sir. That is a map of the Chicago area. You will note that the Calsag Channel is connected to the Calumet River, and there's a Brandon Road, and then it connects up to the Chicago Center and Ship Canal, hereafter referred to as the CSNSC. The CSNSC has sewage fungus and sludge worms. You will have on my desk in 3 weeks the formula for the ecology of the CSNSC. I said, did you say the formula for the ecology of the CSNSC? He said, that's what I just said, looking at me the way a major looks at a private who he doesn't like it all that much.
Uh-huh.
And so I went back to my office, and I didn't know there was a formula for anything like that. Well, he was an engineer. He figured there was a formula for the ecology of it. So this is a brand new thing, this ecology stuff.
This is new, right?
And so, I had a gray desk with a circular ash can, a rolling chair, a black FTS line, a yellow pad with a number 2 pencil, and a Marchant calculator. And I sat there and I thought, well, does this mean I'm not going to Vietnam? I mean, I didn't have this class at Florida State. What's going on? And so and so then I called all these people, all these ecologists, all the Odoms, all the ecologists around the country that I could, because I had this free FTS line, federal telephone service, phone line. I called everybody, and there was no such thing as a formula for the ecology of anywhere, much less the CSNSC. Yeah. And so I went.
This was all fresh and new.
All fresh and new.
Fresh and new.
And so I went and said, sir, I said, there really isn't such a thing as the ecology of a river or a channel. He said, Wilhelm, I'm going to look into that. Now, the map on a wall, meanwhile, you can see we have 50 potential spoil sites. On these 50 potential spoil sites, we're proposing to put overburden from the dredging of the Chicago Center and Ship Canal, the Des Plaines River below the Brandon Road Lock and Dam, and to put overburden on these reported spoil sites. Now, you will go back, and there are 3 kinds of ecology, Wilhelm. There's open land, there's open water, and there's woodland. You will map the 3 kinds of ecology and have it on my desk in 3 weeks. And I said, all right, sir. And so I went back to my desk, and I found the blue line photographs, and I started marking off 3 kinds of ecology, which I'd asked him. I said, I'm not sure, there might be more than 3 kinds, sir. And he said, no, Wilhelm, there's just 3 kinds of ecology. And so I mapped the 3 kinds of ecology, and I went above and beyond the call of duty and planimetered them. About that time, I was thinking, does this mean I'm not going to go to Vietnam? I mean, I just couldn't get over it. And so he said, I took him back, and with all the acreage planimetered, the old planimeter, how you calculate the acreage with that thing. And he said, that's really good, Wilhelm. We'll send this off to Chicago District Office. And I said, well, sir, they might want a little bit something on vegetation. He said, this is fine, Wilhelm. And so about 4 or 5 weeks later, note came back from Chicago District Office that this is great work, Major Emge, but we need a little bit more on vegetation. So he called me in and said, Wilhelm, we've got to have more on vegetation. Now I have some tickets for you. You will take such and such a flight out of Jackson, Mississippi, and you will fly to O'Hare International Airport, and you will meet, you will fly with a civilian guy, and then you will meet the plant expert of the region at the Dulma Motel on the following morning at 9 o'clock. I said, all right, sir. And so he gave me the tickets, and I flew up there, and I got in a cab there at O'Hare. with this civilian guy who was a civilian scientist, and that cab driver took us all the way. He went through the toll. I mean, it was speedy. I'd never been that fast in my life, and I was just scared to death. And so I met this. But anyway, that's a long story. He had other stuff that involved a new kid in Chicago. All right. And so anyway, the next day we met Floyd Swink, who was the.
That was your first time to meet Floyd Swink?
At the Douma Motel in Downers Grove.
That's historic. That's cool.
And so Floyd and I went out the first day, and we went at about 13 or 14 sites, 15 sites of the 50 sites, maybe a little bit more than that, I don't remember. But he would go through everything. Every site was the same. There would be Populus deltoides, Poa pratensis, Arctium minus, Pastanaca sativa, Acer negundo, you name it. Okay, the same stuff over and over again. And I had no trouble writing down the names because I'd had a lot of Latin in college, but I didn't know what the hell they were. And I didn't know what to do with it, And that's why I had this long list of plants at the end. And they all seemed like kind of like the same thing to me, but I saw plants and rabbit poo and everything, and deer poo. And I figured this is ecology or whatever, this is.
Did Floyd know what your direction was?
No, he didn't have any direction at all. There was he was just identifying plants. That's what he did.
Things.
He was naming things. So I had this long list of names, which is what they had back in those days, was inventories, right?
Right, a long list of names.
And so Floyd couldn't go out the next day, and the next day Ray Schulenberg went out with me.
Oh, you got to that. Ray was right after Floyd.
Ray was right after Floyd. And then the next day, and Ray did the same thing. He said, here's Poa pratensis, Populus deltoides, Acer negundo, Pastanaca sativa, Astropylosis, and et cetera, all same things. But he would do one thing different at the end of each site. Ray would say, Jerry, you can spoil it here. You can't hurt it. It can grow back. I thought, whoa, that's kind of an odd thought. Here's a mega eco-freak from the Morton Arboretum telling a factor from the Corps of Engineers that we can put crap on his ecology. What's that all about? I couldn't figure that out. And I lay in the Douma Motel that night. The World Series was on, and Raleigh Fingers, and
all
that. And you could hear the color commentator going, droning on helpfully about what was going on, the pitching and this and that, and who struck out, who didn't, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was half listening to that. You can spoil it here, you can't hurt it. It got to grow back. My mind harkened back to the National Environmental Policy Act, where it said, evaluate the degree to which the impact on an area is irreversible or irretrievable. So here's the first human being I have talked to across the nation who had a philosophy.
It was Ray.
It was Ray.
Yeah.
He said, you can spoil here, you can't hurt it. It could grow back. In other words, it's not irreplaceable. It's just a bunch of weeds. I didn't know that then. But then we crossed this Brassica nigra, this black mustard berm. We came through there, and suddenly he put his hand up. He wouldn't let me go any further. And there, on this little dolomite glade, there was a whole new list of names I'd never heard in all those days. And this was the third day. And he said, oh, Jerry, there is Aster ericoides and Aster azurius and Scutellaria parvula, the variety Leonardi, and Arenaria patula, and on like this. He put his hand on my shoulder. He said, Jerry, don't spoil here, for this is America, and it will not grow back. I thought, oh my God, I got weak in the knees, and I looked at the little America there, and I said, America, that's America, and it won't grow back. It's America. And I thought, oh my God, it's America, and it won't grow back.
As if that's damaged, it's done.
Oh, it's over. If you kill it, it's over. And so
that was the distinction between throw anything you want here, that'll come back.
Yeah.
You can't touch
No, you can't touch that. It's a remnant.
That's enough.
And so I went back to Vicksburg, Mississippi, and told Major Inge I had all the data, all these 50 sites. He said, all right, Wilhelm, put them in order from 1 to 50. Top priority and the lowest priority. I said, well, sir, there's only one. That's spoil site C2. We shouldn't put anything there. He said, Wilhelm, did you hear what I said? Put them in order, 1 to 50. And he said, I said, well, sir, there's only the one, and you can't spoil there because it won't grow back. I said, it's America. Well, he already was, you picture a major, square-jawed major looking at a young corporal who didn't know, he probably just thought I was a nut.
Right. Yeah.
And so I didn't, fortunately, that turned out to be the Lockport Prairie.
Oh, really?
And in August, so anyway, I went back to Vicksburg, to Warren County, Mississippi, and I didn't want to live another day of my life not knowing whether or not I was in America. So I started studying the little plants, and it took me, I went out in the dooryard, my house in Vicksburg, the little apartment where we live, and picked up henbit, lamium, and plexicolli. And it took me half a day to key that thing out because I didn't know any of the words, in the book. And all it said when I got to the end was fields, roadsides, and waste places. It didn't say not America or America. And so I got really frustrated. And fortunately, when I got out of the Army, Kathy Shylock had just left the herbarium, and I called Ray and I just said, Ray, I said, you don't happen to need an assistant. I just wanted to follow him around. I told my wife, I'll just spend a year there, and when I get done, I just want to follow this guy around for a little while. And because you know how it was. And now I'll go to the University of Georgia and get a degree in fishes, which is what I was interested in, was fishes. And so we never left. And so that's how I met Ray Schulenberg. And what
year was that?
That was in 1972.
72, that was your first year at the Arboretum?
No, 74. I got out of the Army in the spring of 74 and went to work there. And then I spent the time with Ray, for the first few years. And I just learned so much, and I learned the weeds, the non-native species from the native. That's a totally different concept. In fact, I remember several years later, I was giving a talk at Illinois Benedictine College down there, in Lisle. And I gave a 2-hour talk on weeds and natives and this and that. And this one lady in the back of the room stood up and said, Dr. Wilhelm, I am pissed. And I said, well, ma'am, why are you pissed? And she said, because I have had 16 years of school and no one has ever told me that Kentucky bluegrass was not native or that anything wasn't native. And so it really hit me how, but even before then though, that's when I invented the Prescriptive Quality Assessment System, where you do the C values, was because I knew that Major Engie and other engineers and other people, if you went into them and said, like a plan commission meeting or and say, oh, we have to save this woods because it's really a cool woods. And they would say, well, how cool is it? Well, it's very cool. Well, you just wanted us to save another woods, down there along the Persons Creek. Why should we save this one? We already saved one. I said, well, this one's a very good one too. This is, this is a very, well, it couldn't click with you. You just sounded like some sort of daft somebody, sort of weirdo. And so that's when I invented this system. I said, these people who are not inside our discipline.
What was the system you invented?
Floristic quality assessment.
Say that again.
Floristic quality assessment.
That was the big, what year was that?
That was in 76, 77. I published it in 77.
Basically, that was a way of giving credibility.
It gave the place, plants were given C values, you know how that works. And then I made an index, and that, if I said, well, most places.
And that was transformational.
It was transformational because these people would say, well, most places in Kane County, this is for Kane County, I did it first. They said this, most of it just, weedy places. And I have indices, like in the 12s or 10, whereas this woods here has an index of 63. Oh my God, at 63. You're kidding. I said, no, it's a 63. So it helped people who couldn't relate, to the plants specifically, could relate to a magnitude. And so that's why I did that, because Major Engie, when you go to somebody who doesn't get it, they say, this is America, it won't grow back. They just think it'll flake.
Right. They just think, come on.
And so Ray Schulenberg. And so what the kind of personality I'm talking about.
Yes, I do.
He was absolutely, never in my life have I met a human being who had a greater visceral knowledge of the land.
And if you were interested,
he would bend over
share
backwards.
Everything.
So would Floyd. But he taught you a different thing. But Ray would just, it's absolutely generous if you were attentive. And you would, But I remember the first time, my first day at the Arboretum, in the herbarium, Mike Madney who was a good botanist from Berrien County at Andrews University, and he came over to talk to Ray, and Ray said, okay, let's play a game. All right, now I'll say the common name, and you say the Latin name, common name, and family. All right, now, Mike, sugar maple, and Mike goes, Acer sacrum, sugar maple, and the Acer acae. Very good, Mike. Now, Jerry, white oak. Silence. I didn't know anything. Oh, class, and Mike says, Quercus alba, white oak, in the Fagaceae. Very good, class. Now, Mike, American hazelnut. Corylus americana hazelnut in the
That's good.
Corylacea.
And that was that spontaneous conversation.
Spontaneous conversation.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Jerry knew nothing, and Mike and class knew everything. And so I didn't want to live through that again. So I took a list of the woody plants of the area that Floyd had a list of, and I went home and memorized it. I didn't know what they looked like, but I was damn sure not going to get caught flat-footed like that again. And so it helped to learn the names first. Then when Ray would point them out to me, I would say, "Oh, that's what that looks like."
Right. You could identify the name to the plant,
Yeah.
and that connection. Now you know.
Now it's already in here.
That's when I would bring a sedge in. I didn't know a sedge. I just brought in, and Ray would just know it by, he'd put his code on. Oh yeah, it's blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And then I knew it.